I joined the Navy. I graduated from high school in June of 65, and I joined the reserves, the Navy Reserves, in July of 65. And as a reservist, you only do 2 years active, but 4 years afterwards of inactive.
Mhm.
And when you join, you had to do 30 days a year active duty. So I did boot camp 2 weeks in Quonset Point, Rhode Island, 2 weeks of boot camp.
2 weeks.
And the day I left boot camp, I went to the carrier, which was in Quonset Point, Rhode Island, the Essex. And I was a seaman recruit. And on the Essex, all I did was they brought me into a small compartment, told me to chip the paint, take all the paint off out of the compartment. And I did that, and I was finished. The guy said, "Okay." And he says, "Now you're painted. Here's a bucket of paint, paint it." So I painted that compartment, and then I guess when I finished, I was happy. And the bosun's mate said, "All right." He took me to another compartment and said, "Chip that paint." So for 2 weeks, that's what I did. Someone said, or I said, I want to go as far away from New York as I can. So they said, "All right, how about you scored well on these exams you took? How about dental school in California?" I said, "That sounds great. I'll go to California." So a couple weeks later, they called me and said, "Nah, that's canceled. We're going to send you to Corps School, Navy Corps School up in the Great Lakes." I said, "Okay." So went to the Great Lakes in Chicago, hospital side, and there you had, I guess I was there 4 or 5 months for Corps School, which was pretty intense. It was stuff that you did that I don't think nurses did today. I mean, they had us in the OR. We were doing suturing and watching everything. I mean, taking all these courses. And then about a month before we were to graduate or finish the school, they wanted volunteers to go to field medical school down at Camp Lejeune. And I said, I think I'd like that. It's probably more or less we'll be going to Vietnam, but I don't want to go on a ship.
Hmm.
And so they asked for volunteers. About four of us out of maybe 75 volunteered to go to field medical school upon graduation.
Wow.
As it turned out, a week later, everybody went. Everybody had orders to Camp Lejeune. So we went down to Camp Lejeune for I think another 5 weeks or so, field medical training, tactics, how to be a Marine, and all that good stuff. Camping out at nighttime, getting attacked, and all this other good stuff,
Yeah.
and how to shoot the M14, how to disembark on the ropes off the sides of ships and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff that really didn't pertain to what we were doing, but there were things that did how to transport bodies, wounded guys in the field and other stuff, and finished there. And then they said you're going to be assigned to the Naval Hospital at Lejeune and wait for orders. So went to Lejeune. I was there about 2 or 3 months, and then I got my orders to Vietnam.
You used the phrase a minute ago, they taught you how to be a Marine. And since that time, in your own mind, do you identify yourself more as a Navy guy or more as a Marine?
That's a very, very good question. And I often ask myself the same question. I joined the Navy. I got my white uniforms. I got my, blue uniforms. And for those 2 weeks, I used them.
Hmm.
That was it.
The rest of the time
I,
you're Marine.
when I went down to Lejeune, I had Marine uniforms. I mean, I have a picture up here of me in my Marine uniform with my Navy insignia, the Corman insignia.
Hmm.
Uh, So that's a very good question,
Well,
Preston.
let me flip it around. How do Marines, how do fellow Marines, how did they see you? How do they see you? Do they see you as Navy or do they see you as a fellow Marine?
Fellow Marine who happened to be in the Navy.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I did more stuff as a Marine than a lot of Marines did. I
Mm,
mean, fighting
sure.
I didn't go to Marine Corps boot camp. I went 2 weeks in Quonset Point, had a march, and that was it.
You said a minute ago that you were trained in the M14.
Yeah.
When you were in Vietnam, did you experience that transition from the M14 to the M16?
I when I got to Vietnam, the gunnery sergeant the first day said, "Here, you're gonna fan fire the 16." So I basically knew how to fire the rifle. I don't remember even using it in Lejeune, but it didn't take me long. Like, I went down to a pit and the gunny says, "All right, fire 2 magazines." So loaded the clip, fired it, fully automatic, fired another clip, put it down. He said, "All right, here. Now here's the 45 familiarization fire with qualifying for the, the MP 1911 Colt, whatever it was, the 45." And I fired a couple of clips. He's, "All right, you're qualified. That's it. That's it."
That's amazing. And the reason I asked that question is, did you have the experience that I hear from Marines and others who are in Vietnam on the earlier side of things? They talk about how the M16 was not a very reliable weapon. It would often jam.
I had that with the 16. We used to carry the cleaning rods taped to the 16. And I remember being in a firefight and looking over, and the guy has taken the rod and jamming it down, cleaning out.
During a firefight.
During what we were doing, we were getting double extractions at one time coming out, and you had to jam in to clean it. And eventually, after that, I don't know how long they changed it. They said something wrong. The chrome bolts, they put new chrome bolts in or something. I don't know, but we stopped having problems. But it was scary. And a lot of times our point man, and we had Fred Jerome Artis, short black dude, smartest point man ever. He carried a 14, and we would go down trails, and he would stop and turn around and say, we'd have a prescribed route on a patrol or an ambush, going out one way, coming back another way, and we would be going out, and Fred would stop us. He didn't like something, and just whatever Fred said, we did. We deviated from that, only to find out a day or two later that area there was a booby trap or something, or some Marine got stepped in one or tripped something. But that's what I remember about the point man.
So he kind of had a special, he had developed almost a sixth sense
Oh
of
my,
something that he.
yes, yeah. He was a point man. I don't know if he liked it, but he was that good at it. And usually the point man were the newest guys coming into Nam. But what I remember my perspective was he was tops.
What is your role as a corpsman? And this is a real question that I've never been able to ask before of a Navy corpsman. Um, you're armed, obviously. So let's say that the squad you're with or the platoon you're with, that it gets ambushed or it's in a firefight all of a sudden. Are you a combatant until the cry goes out for corpsman, at which point you put your weapon down and then you go deal with that Marine? So in other words, do you fight until um another Marine needs medical assistance?
Yep. Yep. I would carry, a couple of times I carried the 79 and I stopped carrying that because the rounds were too heavy. Those 40 millimeter rounds were heavy on your chest and what, I could carry anything I wanted. I wouldn't carry the 60, too heavy,
Mm.
but I would carry a couple of belts when needed. I mean, we went out with what we thought we needed. The M16, you had seven magazine in a bandolier.
Mm.
You had I carried two canteens of water, one for myself and one for the wounded guys that I would use on. Originally, when I went there, I was taking three canteens. That one's for myself. So much water. Then you get used acclimated, and then by the time I left, I was one canteen of water for myself, and give the wounded guys or whatever.
Plus, I imagine you've got the medical gear that
Your
you.
unit one, your A bag, your unit one bag, you carried that. You carried that around you. You had your 16, your 45, extra bandages, a couple of cans of serum albumin, and then I would also have my guys each carry a can of serum albumin, IV fluid, in a can for themselves that they would need if I needed more than one injury, one wounded guy, which sometimes happened, sometimes more.
So I'm thinking, so an action begins. Now you're engaging the enemy. You've got your weapon. You're engaging, and you're, I'm assuming extremely focused on that. I ask combat vets, what do you? Sometimes over the years, I've asked them, what's going through your mind during a firefight? And the answer is almost always nothing. Nothing. It's just the training just kicks in.
Training, that's it. That's it.
Absolutely focused.
You-
But it seems like your mind has to be partly split, though. I mean, you're focusing on that, but you also, at the same time, have to be listening for that call. At what point you've got to move. So it sounds like you're in a different position that your mind has to be a little bit split. Is that how that is?
When a firefight starts, either an ambush or whatever, you're completely focused on what's in front of you. It's like your vision constricts to the tree line or whatever you're firing at.
Yeah.
There could be 6, 7 guys on each side or whatever. You don't realize that. Or they could be in front of you. A lot of times you're in front of you, you're firing off to the left, and you are a combatant. The minute you hear Corman up, or sometimes you won't even hear Corman up, you'll hear the explosion,
Mm.
and you know what just happened and what you got to do, and you run through hell to get there and take care of them. That's your job. That's number one. Number two is getting them out the hell out in a chopper.
So now this question is not meant to pry, but you just use that phrase, you run through hell to get to that Marine. So I mean, I think I have a sense of what you mean by that, but what are the, even as I repeat that back to you, you run through hell to get to that Marine. I'm sure immediately you're able to bring things to mind, images, memories to mind.
First,
What do you mean by that phrase?
no matter what it takes, you're getting there. That's your job. Marine is if he's down, you're getting to him. Because that's what you do. And they all know it. They will die for you. And you're gonna do your best to make sure he doesn't die.
That's why the Marines love the Corpsman, right?
Yeah. And we love them. They're a pain in my ass sometimes, but they're the best. They're the best fighting service in the world, bar none. I mean, they are the bravest sons of bitches I've ever seen in my life. They're crazy. I mean, it's that Semper Fi thing that's drilled into them at boot camp. And then, they're told to do something, they do it.
When did you arrive in Vietnam?
Exactly 1 year left in my enlistment, June 25th, 1967. My expiration date was June 25th, 1968, release from active duty.
And so did you do that? You did that full year in Vietnam?
11 months, 25 days.
Oh. So you're one of these guys who you're in Vietnam and a week or less later you're a civilian.
I had to tell, we're out on an operation, like a riverbed. And I'm telling the lieutenant or somebody, I'm saying, I got 5 days left and I'm a civilian. I mean, we were getting mortared back and forth, left and right. I mean, I know somebody, lieutenant, somebody said, all right, tomorrow, Doc, you're gonna get out in the first resupply chopper we got out of here. I said, all right. That night, we had dug, lack of a better word, a foxhole. There's like 4 of us in it. And I'm saying, I'm not getting killed my last night here. I had put ammo boxes around. I had my gas mask on the side of my head on the dirt, and there was 2 other guys in our hole with me. And we got mortared that night, and the guy next to me gets a little piece in the head. So we chopped him out first thing in the morning. I didn't go on that chopper. And then finally I got sometime during the day, I jumped on a chopper in all body bags.
Mm.
And back to Da Nang.
And 4 days later you're a civilian?
Yeah. It was absolutely crazy. And you don't go over there with a group. You don't come back. You went over by yourself, and you come back by yourself.
So did you have that experience a week later thinking, a week ago I was in a helo on its way to Da Nang and there are a bunch of body bags on a helo, and now I'm walking down a city street and all these people are acting like nothing is going on? Did you have that experience of like, this is insane?
One of the first things I realized when I got home to the Bronx was colors. You're so used to just seeing green, jungle green, everything's green, camouflage green, everything's green. Now you see stores, colors, everything. And I got there, a quick story. I almost killed somebody. I think I got new shoes, new pants, bought some clothes, and I was coming across a highway bridge, the major dig was underneath, and one of the kids threw a pack of firecrackers at me. And it went off, and it was just like 10 or 15 automatic, boom, 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 boom. And I grabbed the kid and I hung him over the highway. I was almost going to drop him. And I realized, what are you doing?
Did he do that because he thought it would be funny, or he knew that you had been in
No, I guess he thought, I don't know what he thought. He was only like 10, 11, 12 years old. but he just threw them in. I remember looking down and going off, and I remember my new shoe, the sole, the bottom of it had a chip out of it from the firecracker.
Obviously, we're going to go back to Vietnam, but since we're here, a lot of veterans say that, and I'm thinking of the combat vets, they say that whatever they experienced in combat, you know, you bring that stuff home and that's hard and it sticks with you forever in one way or another. Some of them say that the reaction or the non-reaction that they got from their fellow Americans after coming home in some ways was even harder. Some talk about hostility, some talk about even more, just talk about apathy. They felt like nobody cared, that they had been over in Vietnam for a year or 13 months. What was your own feeling at the time? What was your own sense?
When I came back, I was delighted to realize I wasn't going to die. You know, I could look forward to every day, not thinking I'm going to die today. But in my neighborhood, there was a lot of guys who went to Nam. They're in the military. It wasn't, someplace in each cupcake or whatever. There was one or two kids in the town. I grew up in the tenements, and a lot of us didn't have money to go to college and stuff like that. And we knew, back then it was a draft. I didn't want to go in the army. My father was in the Coast Guard. He was in World War II. My grandfather was in World War One. I thought it was my obligation to serve, and I joined, and I did my job. I came back, and uh, a lot of guys that were in Nam, we knew each other,
Mhm.
just by the look and whatever, and didn't talk too much about it and try to get on with our life as much as we could. And sometimes it worked.
Did it work for you?
Mm, uh, I have the nightmares and stuff. I have PTSD, so I have problems sometimes, but overcome them.
Sometimes, actually a lot. And again, I'm thinking of the combat vets, and you're one of them. They talk about the terribleness of war. You just referred to the nightmares. I mean, so there's a reason these are nightmares, because of the terribleness of combat. And vets talk about that. Um, they also say, though, that in some ways there's something about that experience that they missed through their lives. They went through their lives thinking that was horrible, but there's something about it. There's something about that experience that I also missed as I went through my life. Was that true for you?
I don't miss a minute of it. I don't miss 1 second of it. Some guy said, "Do you want to go back there?" I said, "What the hell would I want to go back there for?" "Oh, it's a beautiful country." I says, "It probably is." I looked at the mountains and said, "Boy, these gorgeous mountains. I don't ever want to climb one of those goddamn mountains again." They brought back nothing but trauma and heartache.
Yeah.
No matter how many people you try to help,
Mm.
take care of, you couldn't do them all. A lot of them died. And why would everyone ever think of going back to?
Is that one of the is that, do you think, one of the unique burdens that a corpsman carries? There's this famous book about Vietnam, the things they carried, and they carried weapons, they carried water, and then there are a lot of things they carry, and after the war, veterans continue to carry things. Is this one of the unique things that a corpsman carries, is the memory of those you saved? And
It's the ones that that you didn't save, or if you did something else, you could have saved them. It's always that doubt. If I did more, if I did more. I did my best. I mean, my nightmares are treating the wounded guys in front of me out in the bush, but I don't see their faces. I only see the blood and the limbs. I don't see their faces. Thank God. Because it would destroy me. But you do the best you can with what you have. And a lot of times it worked. Sometimes no matter what you do, it didn't work.
What have Marines said to you since the war when they find out you were Corman? What kinds of things have Marines said to you?
The Marines who are in combat don't have to say anything, because I know they would die for me. I was on a C-130. We were going into Da Nang, and it was a long ride. And I remember getting up in the back of the plane where it was a bit cooler. And when we landed, the doors came down, and I was wondering if we were going to go out running, shooting, or whatever, or what's going on. And door comes down, and it's like Kennedy Airport. I said, "Holy Jesus, place!" The intense heat and humidity just grabs you. It just grabs you and says, "Welcome to Vietnam." And you go, "Oh my God." I mean, even taking a deep breath was tough. And went to a reception center, Quonset Hut or whatever. And I had my little brown envelope, and I gave to somebody. And I remember a room full of people sitting down and stuff. And one guy said, "Who needs a corpsman?" And everybody raised their hand and whatever. And they said, "All right, you go with this guy here." And I jump in a Jeep, and I guess we traveled maybe a half hour through these roads and stuff. And I'm finally getting, yeah, this is Vietnam. And then I see a bridge buckled that was blown up. Sappers had gotten it. I said, "Oh shit, this is Vietnam. This is the real McCoy." And got to the hill, and I remember the tall fella, Harrelson. He says, "Doc, welcome to the hill." I think it was, I don't know, if it was Hill 10 or Hill 22 or Hill 41. I forget a few hills we're on. And he says, "You gotta, where you're gonna stay?" I said, "No, things were active. It was Jeep up to the hill." And I said, "Where's the corpsman I'm replacing?" And they said, "Oh, he's gone. He got shot yesterday. He was only here a week. He got shot in the jaw." I said to myself, "Holy shit." I said, this is, that's that same day, I think that's when I fan fired the gun. He took me down. And then the following day was my first patrol. And I am really, really apprehensive. And the patrol I go on, there's maybe 8 or 10 of us, and I'm behind a radio man or whatever. And I'm watching wherever his foot went, my foot's going. I said, I'm just, for about an hour, I was just focused on that. And then we got ambushed. Not ambushed, well, I guess you could call it ambushed. They opened up on us with automatic weapons. And we called in mortars and swept through the Ville and throwing grenades in. I wasn't throwing grenades in these tunnels and stuff, and body parts were coming out. We are swept through the Ville, the mortars came in and everything. We're leaving, we're going back to the hill, and point man gets hit. Sniper got him in the arm and through his chest. So I get up there laying down fire. I'm running up towards him, and I trip on a bunch of rocks and I scrape my wrist down on my bone. And I get to him, and my first casualty is a sucking chest wound. I mean, you can see he shot through here, and then in here. So, first order of business, you got to close the air gap. So, you take from your cigarette the plastic wrap. You take that off and you put it over the hole. You close the hole, so there's no air getting in or out. It's closed. You put him on. You put him on his bad side, and you take care of the. And you get a chopper and get him the hell out. And that's what happened. Went back to the hill, and I said, I ain't gonna make it. This is my first day. This is crazy. This is nuts.
All this you're experiencing in your first couple days in country.
That was it. That was my first 2 or 3 days in Nam. Every day patrols. You had patrols in the daytime, and you had ambushes at night. And in my platoon, you had 3 squads in a platoon. So every time a squad went out, a corpsman went out with them. So a lot of times a corpsman was going out twice in one day. He'd be doing a morning patrol and then maybe a night ambush that night. And that was a daily routine. I mean, it wasn't as bad as the first. There were days you could go maybe a week without anything happening. And then, the shit would hit the fan, and
You had that experience the first couple days, and the thought went through your mind, I'm not, if this is what it's like on day two, I've got 12 months to go.
yeah,
That
yeah,
feel I'm not going to make it.
yeah,
I'm, I mean, so then what? Is there just kind of a resignation? You just
yeah,
accept fate?
yeah. That's it. Then it gets, you live the first week, the second week, third week. I'm invincible now,
Mm.
and you think you're invincible, and you can't think about I'm gonna get it today. Today's my day. You just don't. You put that out of your head. You pray to God, and
Did you, as a corpsman, again, from what I hear, what I've heard Marines say and what I've read, that, what they've written in their memoirs, the corpsman, sometimes is in addition to the the work of a corpsman during a firefight, when things are calmer, the corpsman may be sometimes seen as a counselor and
yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
um,
You're their priest,
you're
counselor,
their, you're their psychologist and everything.
everything, because
It,
they can't, you're not you're a Marine, but you're not a Marine. And they could dump on you things that they wouldn't dump on a fellow Marine, because a fellow Marine would call him a wussy or something like that, that
yeah,
man stuff or whatever.
you're kind of the
And,
healer.
and
Did you
yeah, you're the confidant, you're the healer. And whenever they got care packages, you were the first one they came to offer them to you, whether it be cookies or something like that. It was nice,
did you ever have cases where, from what you're hearing from Marines, what you're observing from Marines, where you went to the officer and said, maybe it'd be better if this guy got out of here because you know, he's he's reached his limit? Or did you recall ever having those kinds of experiences?
no, I never did. No, I never went to a lieutenant, or I might have probably gone to the side and says, this guy, he might need a day or two or whatever. I don't know.
You were in Vietnam through the Tet Offensive, and I'm wondering if, in given what you've described thus far, did the Tet Offensive really make much of a difference to you? I mean, did things become even more intense during Tet, or was it really for you just not much of a difference?
No, it was intense. It was a tough time. I mean, I remember a couple of days before the shit hit the fan, they were talking about uh, that the NVA were coming down the hills with tanks, and they may have jets.
Hmm.
There was nothing going on. This was just, I heard this as talk. I said, nah, nah. And Ted hit. It was crazy. I believe that was my night off.
Hmm.
And I'm sitting on the hill and I'm watching white pop-ups, red pop-ups, green flares. The white pop-ups are for illumination. Green, when you saw the green, that was you were in contact. And if you saw the red ones, that was you getting overrun, or it was something like that. I don't know if I know I'm not making it up, but that's what I saw. And then I got worried to get to the LZ. You need it out there. So I grabbed my bag and rifle and went down to the LZ, and they were loading ammunition, boxes of it. And I remember telling the crew chief, I said, "You got room to take wounded back, which I know he's going to be wounded out there." He goes, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah." So I jump on the chopper and didn't go that far, maybe five minutes, and the chopper's coming down. And you could see I jump out, and off to my right, there's about 4 or 5 guys that are wounded. It's dark out. And I jump down, and the guys are kicking out the boxes of ammo and turn around, and the guy takes off. I said, "Oh shit, oh shit." So Doc Jones was there, and we were treating a few guys, and he said, there's a corpsman out there treating a wounded guy. We got to go out and get him. I said, "All right, I'll go get him." He's, "No, you can't, because the MVA is right there and they're next to the machine gun." I said, "Don't worry, my turn." So I start going out, and Jones, he pulls me by the ankle and pulls me back. And he said, "It's suicide. You're not, can't do anything." I said, "All right, we'll take care of what we got here." Jonesy starts going out. It's Jonesy. I grabbed the Jonesy. I said, "Jonesy, if I ain't going out, you ain't going out." This guy had balls of steel, and pulled him back. And he finally realized it wasn't any good. And we had a bunch of casualties. It was a bad night. One of the worst. And when the sun came up, we had 4 corpsmen who were killed, 12 Marines were killed. I don't know how many were wounded. And it was just crazy. But that was it. I mean, you had to go on. The war didn't stop. Nothing stopped. You couldn't say, "Okay, all right, time to go home. That's it. We're finished." It was, you had to go to it the next day. And there was some mountains. It was that Hill 502. Whatever reason, they went up this goddamn mountain. It's a trail this wide. And you get to the top and you get your ass kicked. And you come down. And you go back up another time a month later. We go up one time and we're going up. We get hit on the way up. I don't know, must have been the whole company going up on some type of operation. And we get to the top, or I guess it's the top, but it was triple canopy, and you didn't know much. And all you heard is, the gunfire, bah, 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 all over. And, it's not like you're in maybe 20-meter circle, and you just firing all over the place. And then at nighttime, they set up like a listening post, where 2 or 3 guys go out on a listening post to see if they hear anything. Well, the listening post is only about 10 or 15 feet away from CP, the command post where the sergeant, lieutenant, and the corpsman, the radioman was situated. And it just, next day, boom, 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 boom. I had, I think at one time, 7 casualties. And they called in a chopper. And the chopper had dropped the torpedo down. And you had to get the Marines on the torpedo, wrap them around it, up through the canopy. By the second or third guy, and the hill is slanted, so I'm on the side of the hill through the canopy, getting this thing down. You can't hear the gunfire, but you know that everybody's shooting at the chopper, and the chopper, everybody's shooting all over the goddamn place. All you're trying to do is get the guys on, and you can smell the gasoline that they're hitting the tank with and whatever. And one guy fell, and the chopper took off. I think he had maybe 2 or 3 wounded guys on, and he was gone. I said, "Oh shit!" And I don't know how. A short time later comes another chopper, the big one, CH-53, and he just sat there and he didn't care. He was taking all the Marines, and he got the other 3 or 4 guys. We got him on there. Off he went, and then we left the hill. For what? Okay, we won. We got the hill. The hill's ours. That's it. As soon as you leave the hill, it's their hill.
They come back.
One of the times we went up the hill was so bad. One of the Marines was killed, and they had to leave him there. So then that day they said, "Well, we don't leave a Marine behind. We're going after him." And we knew it was going to be a real free for all up there. They were going to ambush the body, and they wanted volunteers. So I said, "All right, you're going to need a corpsman." They're only going up with like 8 guys. I said, "All right, I'll volunteer." So I remember writing a letter home to my old man. I said, this could be it. It was one of these things that we'll leave at 2 o'clock in the morning, get to the base of the hill before sunrise, and then make it up the mountain. Around midnight, they decided they're not going to take a corpsman because it's going to be too dangerous. And if they got found out on the way up or the way out to the mountain, they were going to turn back. But they got into a firefight on the way out, but they decided to keep on going. And they made it up, and the body was at the bottom of a crater. And they called in, the F4s were coming in, dropping what they call a blast and a burn. They would do the first fan would come in, he'd do a dummy run. As he's pulling up, the second fan would drop HE. And the gun troopers open up around to keep the NVA away. And then the second guy would come down and he'd drop the napalm. And between this and that, they'd run down, they grabbed the Marine, but they could only get a leg. And they brought the leg back. But that's why they don't leave a man behind, but they had to bring something back because the NVA had did a job on them.
So you didn't go out and they bring the leg back. Was there a sense of I mean, you don't have the whole thing. I mean, was there a sense of, well, at least we got something? Or was there a sense that no, we need to go get the Marine, not just a leg?
I think in my mind was at least the family has something to bury. There's something in the casket.
You said, sometimes a week will go by and not much is happening. But you're just one intense one intense event after another with some downtime, but I'm imagining when you're out in the field, there's really no downtime. I mean, you're always, especially as a corpsman, you're always probably dealing with something.
If you're not doing an ambush, you're not doing a patrol, you're checking on your gear, you're back at the hill, you're checking on your gear, you're going to the battalion aid station and getting like supplies, whether it be morphine or bandages or serum albumin, or you may be given the juggies first aid lesson or something like that, or
Mhm.
they're coming back from R&R and they got the clap or something, you got to give them the penicillin injections and stuff like that, whatever.
Yeah.
You're treating little wounds, like, I mean, you go in through the jungle and the elephant grass is like razor. I mean, you get a little scratch on the arm and leg, that doesn't heal. That doesn't, with that heat and humidity, the dirt, it just doesn't heal. Sometimes you got to tell a guy, you can't go out. You got to get a couple of days of just antibiotics and wrap and cleanliness. We got ambushed one day. It must have been on one of these mountains. Someone said it was Hill 327. I don't know. We were getting on a trail side of a mountain going along, and we kept getting sniping in the ambush. And they said, all right, I'm going to send the squad up ahead of everybody a couple of clicks. And I went up a couple of clicks and we caught them coming down to set up an ambush, and we ambushed them and we got them, most of them. And one group NVA was laying there and he had an inspection clean M14 lying next to him. That was his weapon. And I said, you buku down, Marine? I mean, you hurt, Marine? He goes, buku, buku. Took out the 45, and myself and the 79 man had to choose who was going to do him in. And I won the choose, and I put the 45 standing up right between the eyes. You become an animal. There was so much hate. And for what? Now I regret it. That was one of the things that you regret that war does to you. All the pent up anger, I guess, that I had, that all the guys that I treated because of these guys and stuff like that, I had to take out on them. But I was glad at the time. But now I'm suffering the consequences of it. That's what war does to you. I wasn't trained to do that. I became that.
If you could buy some magic, suppose somebody said, hey, I know how to take away all of your memories of Vietnam. And so that, from basically this moment forward, you can live the rest of your life
Without a thought, no,
without memories of Vietnam. Would you agree
no,
to do that?
no. They are my memories. And good or bad, they structure my life
How do they structure your life?
with the importance of time. If you got to be a certain place at a certain time, you got to be there. The same thing with you're out in the field, a location that we're going to get H&I fire, harassment and addiction fire, or the 105 is going to go off at this time in this location. Don't be at that time, that location at that time. friendships, camaraderie, having a sense of accomplishment. That, you're only 18, 19 years old and you're doing this stuff. It's, you got guys a few years old, fighting, flying fighter jets, doing barrel rolls after dropping the bombs, and you're watching 200 feet above you. And, we could always tell the married pilots from the single pilots.
How?
The married pilots would drop their bombs 1,000, 2,000 feet in the air.
Mm.
The single pilots would be coming down, swooping 200 feet, dropping and doing barrel rolls and strafing, and
Mm.
yeah. Even the day I left, I remember on the plane, getting ready to take off. We're sitting in the plane, the jet's barreling down the runway, and I remember everybody saying, like, "Go, go, go, go," and we take off, and I remember taking off and looking down and having such a feeling of regret that I'm leaving my men behind.
Mm.
I'm looking down at the mountains and I'm saying I should be there with them. It's like, that was my first instance of survivor's guilt. That became so good at what I'm doing, and I should be there taking care of them. And you just turn away.
Vietnam is obviously on your mind right now, because we're talking about it.
Yeah.
But in the normal course of life, let's say 3 weeks ago, a month ago, 2 months ago, how much would you say those 12 months you spent in Vietnam, I mean, how much of a presence are they still in your day-to-day life? How much in one way or another does it pass through your mind?
Every day. Every day. Certain smells that'll pop in, like diesel fuel, or smell of canvas, or up until years ago, a backfire, I would get electrical spark from my spine up to my neck. Depending on how loud it would be up to my neck and out my arms.
Mm.
Choppers, helicopters, is certain,
Yeah.
you can't, I'll look out in the deck or something, I'll look up and there's an instant, you're back in calling in a chopper, calling in a medevac, trying to load a guy onto a chopper while under fire. That sucks. But that's what you do.